The year is 2006. In a Ubisoft meeting, they're talking about their next Prince of Persia game. And some guy was like, hey, why don't we just make it Assassin talk to the prince or something like that? I don't know, didn't watch the movie. And all of a sudden, Assassin's Creed was built, was created out of it. What's up, my kumquats? It is me, Kotdog, and today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed. The bumpy road to glory, the glorious road to Valhalla. Assassin's Creed 1 comes out in 2007. Steve Jobs is dancing around in his awesome pants, and he's introducing the iPhone 1, and all of us are getting introduced to Assassin's Creed 1. Assassin's Creed 1 takes place in a really cool place called Italy. Don't know if you've heard of it. Got the Romans killing people, shit like that. You play as a legendary assassin named Altair. Okay, pretty badass, huh? And in the real world, like much later in the present day, you're playing as Miles, a really boring ass character. Altair is what we focus on. Altair is this badass assassin in the Assassin's Creed with a exposition of Templars versus assassins, good versus evil, and you're rooting for good obviously because you're playing as assassin. Come on now, it's basic knowledge. Assassin's Creed 1 had the biggest scale for a game for its time. It had NPCs highly active everywhere around the map. The climbing was seamlessly easy as fuck. The game was somewhat boring in gameplay, but it had a very cool concept. The melee genre was kind of dying at the time, and this revitalized it. Furthermore, it added a lot of amazing characters that would be focused on in later games. Altair was number one. He was a little boring, didn't really have any characteristics, he just kind of wanted to kill everyone, but that's fine. It was a really good first game, it was a good pilot game, everyone enjoyed it.
You should find an outlet.
I have plenty of outlets.
I meant besides vaginas.
Mother.
This led to Assassin's Creed 2. With Ezio Auditore, he is the fan favorite character in all of the Assassin's Creed games. If you think Ezio is not the best character, then you're fucking wrong. Ezio Auditore, just his name makes me feel like I'm seducing an e-girl on a Discord server. He is a badass. He leads the assassins in later games, and has two other sequels to Assassin's Creed 2, which is Brotherhood and Revelations. I personally like Revelations and Brotherhood. They're both pretty good. The second game was a lot more fun. There was a lot less tedium happening within the game, and RPG mechanics were being forged. The melee combat was amazing. The melee combat was a lot of counter acting, so you just had to have good reflexes. It was pretty basic. They did add a lot of things into the newer games, like in Brotherhood they added more interesting characters. Ezio was one of them. All the assassins are pretty well written. You also have people like Da Vinci you run into, which is really cool for, you know, being in a historically accurate time period. Then you go to Assassin's Creed 3, okay? This thing put ambition on its head, okay? And before I get to Assassin's Creed 3, I want to quickly preface that I'm not going to be talking about older games or regressive games. So first of all, we have a lot of mobile games on the PlayStation Vita, the PSP, the mobile phone, the toaster oven, you name it, there's a game for it. There's even Altair's Chronicles on the DS. If you haven't played that, you're not a true fan. I mean, oh my god, could you imagine? Assassin's Creed 3. Hella ambitious, okay? They added sailing into the game. They added muskets into the game. They added wood as playable characters in the game. Connor is a pile of bricks in the corner who you could not tell the difference if he was speaking. But the environment was amazing. The graphics were top notch. Hold out to today. They did add a lot of different side missions and a lot of different side fun activities to do. More customization than ever before. A lot more recruitment opportunities. The multiplayer was really good. Just a lot of things were going right for Assassin's Creed 3. I'll be right back. I gotta show you something. Oh. Look at this shit. I have one of these. I was so into the game, I had a Halloween costume. My mom, my rockin' ass mom, made me a Halloween costume and had this. I had this with it. I was so excited to play the game, and I got it, and the first 5 hours of the game was nothing but boring. I also got Reagan. Isn't that pretty cool? And then they came out with Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Black Flag throws everything out the window and creates even more ambition. They put it all on the back of the sailing mechanic, and they did a phenomenal job doing it. The islands were great. They're super pretty. The story wasn't really focused on, but it's okay because, you know, Ubisoft's always going to fuck up somewhere. They're bound to do it. But the character of Connor actually kind of comes into his own there, and the characters are just great. And the combat system, it was just a fun game to play overall. Next, we have probably the worst Assassin's Creed game in all the Assassin's Creed games, Assassin's Creed Unity. Some people, like Trashman on the channel, really likes this game. He thinks it's his favorite Assassin's Creed game, mostly because it was the only one he played. But, oh my god. The amount of bugs in that game was fucking crazy. Not only were the graphics intensive, Assassin's Creed Unity was for the new generation of consoles, and for doing such, was trying to push the limits, which led to a lot of bugs. Furthermore, they were using an experimental new engine for it because they were able to use all this new technology with the new generation, which led to a clusterfuck, an absolute clusterfuck. It was impressive that the streets and all of France were really beautiful and set during the French Revolution, which is an awesome time period. Again, they did a phenomenal job with the environment, but the game wasn't that fun. This led to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This kind of revitalized the series in the fact that it fixed all the issues. It was a seamlessly easy game to play. However, it was somewhat forgettable, as I said.
And for that reason,
I'm not going to invest, and we're going to close our doors and add in a new type of game. In 2017, Assassin's Creed released Assassin's Creed Origins. Set in Egypt, you are playing as an assassin who has probably the worst backstory of all time, and we've had some pretty bad backstories. Creates a new combat system, adds a lot more customization with your characters. You can no longer one-shot assassinate like in other games, and it was a more of an RPG than it ever had been before. It was absolutely stunning visually, and the score was amazing. The voice actors were amazing. A lot of things were going right for this game. This game was well received by critics and fans alike, and the only thing fans did not like about this game is that it did not carry a lot of the old-fashioned Assassin's Creed mechanics, which Odyssey doesn't either. That's my transition in Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Puts gorgeous is a bit of an understatement. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is probably the best visually stunning game I've ever played. It is so beautiful. It's set in Greece during the Peloponnesian War, which is by far one of the best time periods for history, in my opinion. It's tyranny versus democracy, which is one of the most interesting power struggles to date. Assassin's Creed Odyssey did everything Origins did, but better. And it also included player choice. Player choice is the most interesting part, in my opinion, of the game, and it added a lot more storytelling that we weren't able to see before. Before, it was a narrative directly given to us, and now we could have our own perspectives and our own choices. Choices actually do matter in this game. You have to make specific choices at certain times in the campaign to make sure you have people survive or die. It's very interesting. I love the game for that very reason. Overall, Odyssey was my favorite Assassin's Creed game. There were a couple downfalls, obviously. As the most recent game, it had a really big grindfest issue. Exploration was not encouraged but needed in order to play the game, and game's engine was just so weird. Like I said in my Ubisoft video, I was like at Skyland or something, jumping around left and right, but that isn't every game. Look at that Origins boat. You see that thing? That thing's not, it's supposed to be in the water, but it's not. But that leads me to Valhalla. Valhalla is coming out this year. They're going to have sailing. They're going to have these large army battles that they had in Odyssey, but they may have an even a bigger scale. This may actually mean something, because in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you weren't aware, it was Spartan versus Athenians. And basically, these battles arose when the region could be overtaken by one army or the other, and you picked which side and you got paid for it. This is a really interesting mechanic, but it didn't really mean that much whether you won or lost them unless you got all the regions, which didn't happen unless you finished the campaign. So in that regard, it was okay. Now, they may actually have a lot more factions this time, which will be really interesting for battles, seeing who can fight for, or maybe you should fight for yourself or for your tribe. Whatever it is, it's going to be really cool. It's during the Anglo-Saxon period. What to expect, we're going to see a lot more naval battles. We're going to see a lot more ground battles. Hopefully we get to see a more interesting backstory. Maybe it's got something to do with religion this time with the cultists instead of just because they're power hungry. I don't know. I'm really excited for this game. And the weapons are going to be badass. The kill shots are going to be badass. And I hope they're going to elaborate on the skills tree maybe a little bit more. Maybe make it a little more realistic. And maybe not as much of a grind fest. Overall, this game is going to be great. I already know it's going to be great. And I'm excited to see what you guys think of. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. Overall, thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay cool. That's a threat and a promise.